Strip it. Strip it. All right, leave it. Strip. Bump it. He's coming.
Oh my gosh.
He got it. Nice. All right, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of the Redfish Podcast. And I know it's been a while. There's been a whole lot of stuff going on. With redfish, with policy. I'm hoping to have this out actually on June 20th. That'll be the first time in, over 35 years now that we're actually getting a redfish change. And pretty awesome to see, you know. I mean, it's not as much as what we were pushing for, obviously, but as I said before, 2 years ago when we were talking about this, if we could just get this through, I mean, anything's a help. You know, I tell people throw one fish back and pick up one piece of trash, do one thing every day for the state of Louisiana, and it'll help out for sure. So that'll be super cool and definitely something to celebrate. Good for redfish, but probably be hearing a lot from me this time, maybe just me and maybe a short one. I just wanted to get this out and kind of, this is going to be all about the facts and what's gone down with policy and pretty much everything as of late. Shane's been pretty busy fishing. Dave's been doing some tarpon fishing and all. I'm going to try to get them on, but if not, you'll hear from them pretty soon. We're going to get back to doing this kind of regularly too. Hopefully I won't be driving to the capital as much and, you know, just back to doing this and giving y'all what you want to hear. All right, so let's start it from the very beginning. Stock assessment done in 2022, I mean, based on that and the 2022 numbers, and finished up the end of 2022. We started talking about walleye fisheries in the spring of the following year, in 2023, last year. And there was a lot of public comment periods. There was, you know, it was a monthly meeting. I tell people, whenever I see it all the time, shoot, I mean, the limit's about to change tomorrow. And I saw somebody saying, oh, they did this without any public comment. I mean, well, just the monthly meetings alone. I mean, come on now. And people always want to be like, oh, well, we can't get up to Baton Rouge at 9:30 on a Thursday. I'm like, well, it's one day a month, the first Thursday of every month at 9:30. Like, if you can't devote one day a month to this fishery, then, I mean, you'll see in a later comment what I think of that situation. I mean, good luck. Good luck trying to get any sympathy from me. So, but we'll go starting back at that. You know, it started with the stock assessment, then we went through some public comment period. We had almost like a 90-day public comment period on that, and it's kind of the consensus was that everybody has seen some kind of problem, and they were fine with some kind of change. You know, some people didn't want to see as much of a change, but pretty much everybody was pretty much okay with the change, and it was proposed by walleye fisheries to do the 4-fish 18 to 27 thing just because that's the bare minimum. They were like, well, we have to get this through if redfish stand any chance at all. And in July of last year, we had a bunch of us up there, and the commission agreed, and we pushed for some more stringent regulations of 18 to 24, 3 fish, which I really just wanted to see something 3 fish wise, just because when you look at the percentage reductions and the time frame of that it builds SPR, and you know, people could say what they want and they're like, oh, we only managed to escapement, and you hear that from everybody, and y'all disagree with some of our biologists on that. You know, I just look at it from a standpoint of, yes, I know we only manage as a state to escapement rates, but what the hell do we do when we have no big fish? We have no little ones to make big ones. We manage to escapement rate, and we just, you know, we rely on a hope and a prayer of, you know, that rebuilding. I mean, the situation we're in right now will be about 26 years. So, I mean, I guess they're okay with the spawning potential ratio rebuilding in that time frame, but that's, opinion. We're going to stick it to most of the facts and a time frame of what went on the past year. But we tried for the 18 to 24. The commission was behind it, and, it got kicked back in the Senate, and you know, I don't really fault anybody for that. I kind of fault me and, you know, some of the people that were really helping me. We definitely should have put more pressure on the Senate for stuff like that. And it's very political. I mean, we were at that Senate meeting November 7th, and I'd say probably 85% of the senators as well as the legislators there had no clue even about the stock assessment that took place. Half of them weren't even there. I mean, they were missing like 8 or 9 guys there. Guys and girls, not just guys, but they were missing like 8 or 9 people there. They just decided to not show up that day. I mean, that's just politics for you. But still, though, I mean, I think we had close to 40, if not over 40 people speak in favor, including some commission members, in favor of that 18 to 24 3-fish slot limit that should have gotten passed by the joint committee there. And I think we had 7 speak against it. And, I mean, not picking anybody out, but, we had a couple bow fishermen. We had one councilman from Lafayette area. And then we had our leader of our Coastal Conservation Association speak against a very good and progressive limit change. So, I mean, I know their thing is, our anglers disagreed with it. And I mean, you can't please everybody. You definitely want to please the majority. So I was a little worried about that just because it was a tighter slot. Looking back on it now, maybe we should have opened up the slot a little bit and tried for it. That got kicked down. Proposed a 3-fish limit, 18 to 27, which was perfect. Great. The only thing happened, we proposed that in December. And what happened in January? We got a whole new commission, pretty much. Well, a couple new members. We got a whole new administration at Walleye Fisheries and a whole new administration in the governor's office. And it just so happened some of these organizations that are supposed to be doing, conservation work for the state of Louisiana, they, I guess, had the right connections or at least the right amount of money to pay the right people. And yeah, we took the 3-fish 18 to 27 thing all the way through. I got pretty hardcore on some of the senators and some of the legislators this time, and I was talking to them just about every day, the majority of them. And most of them told me, and they were like, look, nobody really is in disagreement with this. Seems like the public was majority for it as well. It was pretty much set in stone, and the Senate and the joint committee, the Senate and the legislator, the Natural Resource Committee, they decided to not have a meeting to shoot it down. And the only thing left to shoot it down then was the commission taking it back up the day it should have gone through, pretty much. Or really, I think the 2 or 3 days after it should have gone through. They had a meeting in March, and they decided to change it. After the 45 days or so that we had it going through, longer than that, 3 months, and decided to go restart the process all over again and go back to the 18 to 27 4-fish thing. And we saw that happen with the menhaden issue in that previous meeting. I saw that get called to an emergency meeting, and I kind of knew what was going to happen then. I was like, oh, they want to get this menhaden thing done with. It's coming on good word from the governor's office that he just is like, he pretty much came in with the menhaden thing and told everybody, this is what you're going to get. You're going to take it. You're going to like it. Don't say anything against it. And, a lot of these other people that were there looked at me and a couple guys that were with me, and they were like, oh, this is all you're going to get, so don't say anything against it. And, there wasn't much. The menhaden issue is a far, far bigger, wider, more vast issue that we'll get into. I know I keep saying this, but we'll get into it eventually one of these days, and we'll really dive into it for people that really want to know more about it. But my concern was, they're going to have an emergency meeting. Well, they're probably going to want to bring the redfish issue back up to the commission, not the same commission that sent through the 3-fish, mind you. We lost 2 of our commissioners, gained 2 more new ones, and we kind of saw the writing on the wall after talking to them and knew who they were being coerced by and, things like that. And it got brought up at the March 7th meeting, I believe it was. Or really, the first Thursday of March. I tell people all the time, first Thursday of every month. But that was it got brought up there. Then they changed it back to the 4-fish, 18 to 27. And here we are today, June 20th. That's going to go through. So like I said, awesome. To win for redfish. If you'd have told me 2 years ago that we were going to get the 4-fish 18 to 27 through with killing no bull reds, awesome. Again, a bare minimum thing, but I am not complaining. it's absolutely better than nothing. I mean, who knows? We could have gone through this issue another 2 years like we did with speckled trout. I mean, it was almost 5 years that it took to get a speckled trout limit change through. COVID had something to do with that, obviously. It eliminated some of those meetings and all and stretched the time out a little further, but I'm happy. It's a win for redfish for sure. And, I mean, it doesn't mean you just sit back and let it be now. I mean, there's still things to be done. There's still a lot of things from land loss issues. There's, other fisheries aspects. There's so many numerous things. And wildlife fisheries knows that too, and they're not stopping doing things. They do assessments all the time. They do monthly. I tell people, I'm like, they are testing things monthly. They're doing monthly assessments on our fisheries, on redfish, on trout, on everything. Now, they don't do a big stock assessment on those species for, about every 5 years. But that doesn't mean they're not looking at it. And, people always want to talk about, oh, well, they're dragging their net in some place that doesn't have any fish. I'm like, well, if they just drug their net everywhere you told them to, that would be kind of a useless way to get an average. It's all about averages when you're dealing with fishery science. And at the end of the day, good luck counting. We're counting freaking fish. Literally the hardest job of any scientist, I think, on planet Earth. People want to talk about, politics and money plays into the biologists and the science here. I'm like, this is not pharmaceuticals, man. We're not talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, take the fishing industry as a freaking whole. I'm talking bass fishing, saltwater, offshore, everything. And I guarantee you Nike makes more money selling tennis shoes than the entire fishing industry on planet Earth. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So when you want to say, oh, well, money is what tells these biologists what to do, good luck, dude. I mean, these biologists are making dirt to get told all kinds of garbage crap at these meetings by some really just uninformed, ignorant people. And they sit there and still do their job, which is to protect the fishery with, the science that they can come up with. And, I mean, hats off to them and the agents, too. A lot of people talk shit about agents. I mean, I've had my run-in with agents myself. But at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, what a shitty job. Wildlife fisheries agent, what a shitty job. They deal with, what the people they deal with? They deal with people out in the woods, out in the middle of nowhere on the water, and pretty much every single one is holding a gun usually. Not just during duck season or something like that, but, how many fishermen, that are out in the middle of the marsh and in the basin or something in a Chaffalaya in the middle of nowhere. And they're just pulling crab traps. I mean, they have a pistol on them. I mean, being a police officer obviously is pretty rough. But, geez, dude, a wildlife fisheries agent, I mean, anywhere. That's not just Louisiana, but you're dealing with some people, too, that just are kind of trying to live off the radar, probably. Live out in the sticks in the middle of nowhere. And pretty much every time you encounter somebody, it's usually not a good encounter because they're doing something wrong. And they're usually armed or pretty pissed off the second they see you. I mean, hats off to those guys, I mean, same thing in people. There's always one or two people that make it look bad for the rest of them. But at the end of the day, those agents, those wildlife biologists, I mean, wildlife fisheries as a whole, it's all good people, man. It's all good people trying to make this place better, trying to do their job. And it's very few of them. I mean, for as vast as our fishery is, we have so few biologists per, acre of marsh and per fish that we have in the state. It's incredible the job of how good they are, the job they do. And I say good they are because it can be proven. Our stock assessment is that it's been proven to be that good because of things like lacreel. And we're going to get in that one. We're going to get into that more in an episode coming up. But how awesome, like the lacreel surveys, and I say surveys, but the lacreel program as a whole has been so good because it's these biologists putting hands on fish. They're not counting boat trailers in a parking lot at Sam Rayburn. Like that's how Texas does it. They count boat trailers at parking lots. So that wakeboarding guy is counted in their creel survey. In Louisiana, they're touching fish. They're getting hardcore numbers, hard evidence of our stocks and kind of everything about it. So you can't really discount it. And it's been proven, too, when you look at our percentage error in those assessments. It's so much smaller than anything else you see in fisheries data across the entire planet. I mean, hats off to them. And going back to something on the biologists and science of people, it's a lot of the same group of people that are complaining how they've fought against this whole redfish movement the past 2 years have really been some of the same people that remember what happened in the 80s and all with the gill netting, and they were for it. They were, we need to do something. The gill netters killed them all, and that was a science-based thing. They saw it with their own eyes, obviously, but they also saw it. Biologists saw like something was wrong with it. And I just think it's crazy, absolutely crazy, that we can just validate the science of the 1980s and completely discredit the science of the 2020s. I mean, come on now. This is the best shit we've had in 50 years of science, and the best stuff that's going on in the entire nation right now, especially regarding redfish. So, I mean, good luck trying to discount that. All right, and we'll go from there to my rant of, if you look at the numbers of fish killed, we've killed more redfish through the last stock assessment than we did in the black and redfish days with gill nets. It was unacceptable then, and, a group of people got organized and came together and combated that and turned our redfish stocks around tremendously by banning gill nets and setting appropriate limits. That same organization, slightly different from how it was back then, is okay with killing them faster than they could reproduce now, and has refuted some of the science that says we should do some more stringent limits and take more of a reduction to increase our chance of those other outside factors taking longer to rebuild our stock. And they've said things of, it's a science-based decision, talking about the bare minimum recommendation. They won't say, but it is the bare minimum action that the department recommended, because that's all they thought they can get past after what happened with trout. That, if all things are held in a bubble, which means no more land loss, no hurricanes, no freshwater events, no freeze, and no other weather phenomenon during the spawn, then yes, in 25 years, our spawning stocks will recover. I just don't get why the 25 years is all right with people. I think it's an extremely selfish thing, because in 25 years, all of those people in that organization, the commission, the new administration at LDWF, the governor, Joint Natural Resource Committee that votes on things like this, and those fishermen that have pushed this bare minimum recommendation or no recommendation at all, that they don't want any change, they won't even be participating members in this fishery anymore by then. Maybe not even of this earth. So why in the hell should I have to suffer in 25 years because of an extremely selfish decision? Why should my kids have to suffer? Why should 2 whole generations have to suffer from a decision based on a hope and a prayer? I don't want to end up in a position where we have to hope and pray for a good spawn every couple of years just to catch some redfish. I don't want to have to be in a position where we have closures and have to talk about something like only keeping 1 or 2 fish because we've fallen so far off the boat. That's when, these other people will come in with the hatchery talks, and they'll really fire up and say, oh, well, we'll just make more, make more fish that don't contribute to our spawning population, more fish that don't help the overall numbers of our fishery more than, a few percentage points at the highest estimate. A hatchery won't save us at that point. It didn't save Texas. This ain't Texas. We don't need to be like anyone. We don't need to be like Texas. We don't need to be like Florida. We have the greatest fishery and marsh on planet Earth. We just have to let it breathe and not kill fish faster than they can be replenished. Build as much land as we can from every single angle, whether it be dredging, diversions, and whatever else, and treat this place like the incredible place it is. Respect it. It's scary how little people respect this place. This isn't a grocery store or a dollar bill that is owed to you. And if you think about it like that, then you're nothing more than a waste to this place. Somebody that doesn't deserve to appreciate how incredible this place really is. It's far, far greater than that. Greater enough to have touched generations before us, and even more incredible that it will be part of multiple generations after us. So don't be so selfish. Think about that next time you're on the water. Think about how much you've loved this place, and you'll find that we don't appreciate it near enough. It's not just your job. It's not just my job. It's my home. It's my whole damn life. It's more than a job for me. This is everything. I'll let that be my only real rant in this one. And we'll get back on track to some more facts and policy. And get to talking about some other stuff that y'all want to hear about other than just me ranting about things. So let me go over what's going on, June 20th real quick. So June 20th, it's another thing kind of like speckled trout. It kind of came up. It got sent through. It lasted November, and then November 20th, I think they got sent to the register like the first Monday or whatever of November. And left very little time. I think even later than that, actually. I think they had less than about 10 days to really put that information out there. And they put it out there November 20th that it was going to happen. Kind of before a big, holiday, Thanksgiving. A lot of people fishing then were coming up on the same thing. And I was surprised, honestly. I thought they were going to kind of wait till July or something to put this through for redfish. But, hats off to Secretary Sheehan for... she's done a lot that I've disagreed with lately. I'm not going to lie. But hats off to her on this one for doing what's right by the fishery and, making it happen as soon as possible. I mean, it's going to save some fish. It's a big holiday weekend coming up in July 4th. And a lot of people are going to be on the water. And like I said, this is going to go through June 20th. And I'm sure I've seen some outrage about it. Not as much as what happened with trout. That was pretty last minute, but... they got a good 2 weeks to really talk about it and kind of put it out there for people, and it's going to go through, and that's 30 extra days of fish that are going to be saved under that 18-inch mark and bull reds. I mean, we talk about it all the time that they killed, I think it's over 60,000 or so bull reds last year recreationally. I mean, that's not a light number. That's 60. I don't care if it's 10,000. I mean, killing 10,000 bull reds a year. I mean, that's a lot of fish that could be in our stock reproducing. One of the things we've been seeing a lot lately too, and so we've seen a good bit in the spring especially, is we've seen a lot of little ones, which is awesome. I mean, I'm super happy, super impressed that we've been seeing a bunch of little ones. And when I say little, I mean they're a little bit bigger now, but they were all under slot. And we saw really small last fall, and a good bit of fish now, and everybody's, ranting and raving, oh, it's so awesome, it's the best I've seen it in a long time, and, then they'll look at me and say, oh, I caught my first fish over 20 inches in 6 weeks. That's not a good sign of a good fishery. That's great for the future. If we can keep those fish alive and, get them to 20 to 24 inches in the next year or so, that'll be super freaking awesome. But not if we just keep raping and pillaging them, I mean, the whole point of the slot and the, slot size and fisheries management is, in general, is to maximize the number of fish in the slot. We're seeing that many little ones. It's great for what could be, but it's not a guarantee we're going to be anywhere in the right hands. But then again, it is very good. I've been truly happy that we've seen that. And hopefully it means a bunch of slot fish in the next 2 years, which is kind of what we've been lacking, That's what I've been so aggravated with, is the lack of slot fish. I mean, you just can't rely on a fish that's this long lived on a sporadic 1 good year recruitment. As far as those little ones are concerned, I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about 1, maybe 2 years of good recruitment. And that's not what we want. We want multiple years, multiple, age classes to keep doing that. And that's how we get a good fishery. That's where we end up where we were, from the previous 15 years or so. And that's, that goes back to the hatchery thing. People are like, oh, we'll just dump a bunch in there. I'm like, well, it's not going to matter. It's not going to compete with what can be naturally done by just letting the freaking fish naturally spawn and kicking back our creel limits and size a little bit, and not killing as many big ones. But I tell people all the time, I'm like, where I'd like to see a hatchery take place, let them do it. Let's do it. Just make sure it's Louisiana fish. Let's not be dragging fish from other places here. But let's do it right. You want to dump some fish somewhere? Let's just go dump them on the side of Wyclosky right before it freezes and the water blows out on a day in January or February when there's going to be literally 1,000 or more people inside the road just catching them on dead shrimp, just about every cast because it's the only deep water around, and that's where the fish are going for refuge. And I hear people say all the time, some of the guides around here will just get so pissed off of that, which is hilarious to me. They're like, oh, they need to close them. They're just killing them all. I'm like, what the hell are y'all doing the rest of the year? So you're pulling 10,000 out throughout the year is nothing compared to them pulling 2,000 or 3,000 outside the road in a weekend. I'm like, yeah, I know it's a short time frame, but I look at that as like, that might be that one day a year that the dad or the grandpa or whatever taking his son or grandson out fishing. That might be the one day the entire year that they buy a fishing license and they go and they catch fish. Maybe they fish a bunch and they never catch anything. I say that stuff needs to happen. I mean, people want to talk about hatchery stuff and all, like, do your freaking hatchery, keep them in a pond and let people go buy a fishing license and pay to catch a couple redfish in a pond somewhere or something like that. Or just do something like that where they're on the side of the road around weather events and freezes, because I think it's not right if we close something like that down for the people that don't have a boat, that can't fish, not even just every day, but once a month, once every 6 months. I don't think we need to be telling those poor people, oh, look, there's a bunch of redfish right here, but you can't keep a single one right now because, it's going to hurt the population. Well, I just think if you're going to say that nonsense, then you need to tell that guide that fishes every single day, that goes a mile from the launch and, throws dead shrimp under a popping cork and, thinks they're doing something, just killing a bunch of fish and coming back to the dock at 8 o'clock, limit them to some point. I just think that's crazy that, that's kind of, we've used this fishery like a, yes, I know it's a job too, but it's just been treated like a grocery, or it should have been treated like it's a dollar bill that's, just owed to you. Some of these people talk about it like, oh, it's owed to them that they get to do this. I look at it as it's a freaking privilege. It really is. I mean, it's pretty awesome that I get to wake up and go bring somebody to catch redfish, whether I'm keeping them or not. I don't really care. But the point is, like, I look at it as that's pretty damn awesome, and I'm super appreciative to be able to do that, because I could be in a cubicle somewhere doing something or doing nothing. I mean, it's a pretty cool thing to do, and I hate when I see people that look at it like, oh, I'm just gonna bring these idiots right there, and we're gonna be back at the dock at 8 o'clock and whatever, it's crazy. It's even more crazy to me because, when I was a kid, yeah, who cared? It didn't matter what time you showed back up. You showed back up with a bunch of freaking redfish on the dock, you got laughed at. Them guys this time of year, they were running out to Central and, and all out in Black Bay and the islands and all, and coming back with a bunch of trout, and that was the thing. You came back with redfish, it was because you were a shitty trout fisherman. And it's just turned into this kind of grocery mentality. It's turning this easy barrier to entry. Anybody go get a license, go get a boat, and pop a cork with dead shrimp under it and call themselves a guide now. And that's kind of what it's become. I mean, I'm not knocking it. I mean, good for those people at that. And I'll do it sometimes with people, but it's not something I really want to do. Going back to the things when it's those people, it's those people that are complaining about the old man on the side of the road killing, 4 or 5 reds, whatever it may be, on those days when everything's frozen and the water's low. I mean, I just think like, no, those people, they need to look in the mirror and check themselves. There's no doubt about it. So I know a lot of people have asked me about this whole, well, what's the motive for people that have been against you, as far as, up there, and politicians and some of our conservation organizations down here that have been kind of working against the more stringent, more, progressive limit options with redfish. And I don't really know, this is more opinion and not really conspiracy, because we got stuff to back it up, but I think it's more about those organizations have seen what Texas has done as far as hatcheries go, And I think from a long distance, they look at this hatchery thing as a money-making opportunity, which there's definitely some money to be made in it. I guess if you do it like Texas, but the original plan that they set forth last fall to kind of instate it over there in Calcasieu or Sabine, I forgot where it was, but that was pretty minimal. It was a pretty minimal thing, and if they're using fish from Louisiana, so be it. And yes, obviously, any help is good help, but we don't want to end up down the hatchery train, we don't want to end up like Texas. We don't want to end up where we're depending on a hatchery fish, and that's all we see. Texas has a hatchery that produces millions of fish, but still has a declining redfish stock and speckled trout stock. If you don't believe me, just go look it up. They have their numbers, readily available to the public, just like Louisiana does. The amount of fish that it would take to combat what we've lost isn't even possible nor sustainable. Yes, I think they see it as a money-making thing, which I don't really see unless they start going after public funding, which some of our legislators have put forth some legislation lately to provide public funding, funding from wildlife fisheries from your tax dollars to go into a privately operated hatchery system. And not only that, they're wanting you to use fish from other places, which a little tough to get into that. It's a lot to go down that rabbit hole, but just look up hatcheries in general from all over the planet and what it does to the natural species that we have there. We just don't want to get to a point where we're basically outrunning the natural species by not changing the limits or doing what we should do creel limit or size limit wise to save the natural fish, because the hatchery fish are just incapable just about of making it to our spawning population. It's something that I don't think we need to be spending our money and time on. So anyway, at least the numbers from what I've seen for the Sabine stuff, we're expecting like 2,500 fish out of 10,000 to reach 16 inches, 25% to reach 16 inches, and that's pretty inflated numbers, So what is the percentage of that that's going to reach the spawning population, And then you got some of our legislators that are reaching out for, public funding for this stuff. So, when you're dealing with hatcheries, especially in the private sector of stuff like that, you're just dealing with people that are going to cut corners. People that are behind this are notorious for cutting corners and doing things the wrong way. There is a right way that you can do things. And I've told people before, I'm like, look, you want to do the hatchery thing? Let's do that, but don't use it as a supplement for changing the creel limits or size limits or anything like that. Don't say, I just look at it as the push for that group against changing the limits more progressively to 3 fish was, oh crap, well that will actually help sooner. And then people will see that we don't need a hatchery. That'll help sooner. That'll put the fishery back to where it should be sooner. So we don't want it to be that. We want it to be as minimal as possible so we could look like we did something conservation-minded, while also saying in 5 years when it, if it doesn't work like it should, then they could look at it and say, oh, well, we don't have to change the limits or go down or do anything again. We'll just make more fish, which is, as I've said, and as I could show you through scientific papers, through numerous biologists of what they've written about it and what they've seen in other states. Just looking at Texas alone, it's not going to do a single thing to help. It's only going to make it worse and worse, because we're going to put off doing what needs to be done and just say, we'll just keep making more. All right, well, before I sign us off out of here, I just, obviously pretty incredible things happening on June 20th. Hopefully I'll have this thing out by the morning of June 20th. But just wanted to start by saying, a couple years back, it was really like 2019. We'd kind of seen the peak of things around that 2017 mark. And you look at the numbers, it kind of goes along with that. And then we started seeing a bit of that stuff decline and kind of start to trend downward based on the science in 2019 and 2020 and COVID and all this stuff came about, and I had some time and wish I would have stuck more with it and not really strayed away from it, but just did more fishing than, I guess, policy stuff, which was way more fun. But, I kind of looked at things and I was like, man, there's definitely something to be done, and seeing those guys at Captains for Clean Water and all the great things they've done, I was like, we need something like that here. And, I went out and was doing the math and crunching the numbers and figuring out stuff on non-profits and all this stuff and doing something for here. And somebody told me, they're like, man, just show up and do what you can, whatever you can to, help the fishery and help everything. And that was one of the greatest things that I've ever heard, and definitely something I tell people all the time. If you ever heard me, you've heard me say, just freaking show up. Just show up. That's all it takes. And I pretty much made it a choice to, especially once I knew we were getting a redfish stock assessment a couple years back, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to make it a point to show up. I don't care who shows up with me. I don't care if I'm by myself. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be there. And luckily, a bunch of people hopped on it. And, I can't really thank everyone enough. I'd love to sit here and name everybody. I mean, if you're curious, feel free to ask me. I'll try to come up with a list for you, especially if you're looking for somebody to book a trip with over here and you want, to send your business to somebody that's done a lot for this fishery, especially redfish, the past couple of years. Let me know, because I've been there at every single one, and I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about everybody that's been there with me and all. And let me know. I'd love to hook you up with some of those people that have gone out of their way to do things here for our fishery. And I just can't thank people like that enough. Everybody that's been there at all the meetings, everybody that's been to the Capitol, at the Senate, to the people that freaking flew in. I mean, we had people from across the nation fly in for this, and thank you to, the biologists, everybody that's been behind this and behind wanting to help this fishery, the commission, new and old members, and especially our commission, and that's been set, the past couple of years up until last year. I mean, they were phenomenal, and especially people at ASGA, American Saltwater Guide Association. If you know my past, I heard about somebody wanting to do some things with redfish down here, and heard that they, may know some things about how the science of fisheries and all works, and I kind of was like, oh hell no, not another organization coming down here wanting to throw a banquet and take money for people and do nothing. So I pushed back pretty hard against it, but it was proven to me pretty quickly, those guys over there at ASGA, especially Tony Friedrich over there, and how knowledgeable he was with it. And he kind of was like, here you go, this is, I can talk, not only talk the talk, but walk the walk, and back it up with his knowledge of fisheries is far more grand than mine, which is super awesome. But they have stepped up more than I've seen anybody in all my years of doing this and all my years of being in this fishery. Him and his whole crew has straight up dropped everything, never asked for a dime, literally dropped everything, said, we're not coming in here for money. We don't know if we will even have $1 to spend towards this, but we want to help. And they were pretty much like, what do we do? Where do we go? And even helped me a lot of things that I didn't know, and he was like, hey, you should do this instead of this. And it ended up being true because he's been there and they've seen things from stripers over there that I hope we never have to deal with down here. And I just can't be thankful enough for all the organizations and everybody that's got behind it when we had that letter going out through ASGA that everybody signed and got behind, that we submitted to Wildlife Fisheries, the Commission, and the Joint Natural Resource Committee and all, and everybody that's commented, all my clients, all my friends, everybody that's submitted their own comments, personal comments to the Wildlife Fisheries Commission, to everybody, to the governor, to everything. It's been pretty awesome to see, and it's a pretty monumental thing happening June 20th, and I'm, definitely not going to let being kicked around a little bit the past couple of years deter me from anything, because like I said before, at the end of the day, it's a win for redfish, it's a win for the fishery, And I really can't thank everyone that's been involved with this enough. It's been truly awesome. And I guess on to the next, on to the next thing that helps our fishery, and hopefully we get to see things going in the right direction instead of the wrong direction soon. Well, y'all, it's about all I got for now. This will be a shorter one. Obviously, I just wanted to kind of catch y'all up with what's been going on. I got another one coming up. It's with Shane and Dave that we did a while back, and a guy, Mario Campo, that's actually a graduate student over there at Southeastern. And we talked to him for a while about, the whole, not really the debate of dredging versus diversions, but we kind of got into a lot of what CPRA has done over the past couple years, things that they're doing currently, projects where they're doing dredge projects currently in places. And, we talked obviously about the diversion and the good and the bad of it all, So look forward to posting that one and getting y'all's feedback on that. I think a lot of people have some comments on that one. That one was strictly about that, so you'll like it. Let me know if you want to hear some more stuff like that. I got some other stuff lined up. We're going to get back to doing the normal just redfish thing. I'll do our normal segments and all that stuff too, and what's kind of been going on as far as fishing goes. And then I also got a couple other things I'm going to get working on soon. And all you people that listen to this that are, duck hunters like me, I'm working on a little waterfowl thing, So that's what I love to do. I don't guide waterfowl or stuff like that. If you're ever looking for somebody to guide you down here, I'll hook you up with some of the best guys in the industry that I know. But I do it. That's what I like to do when I'm not fishing in the fall and winter. And I'm very passionate about that, as well as, like I am with redfish. So I figured I'm just always talking about it and talking to people about these things and going to obviously some of the meetings on waterfowl in Louisiana and some of the stuff with the federal meetings and all. So figure what the hell, might as well do that. So be looking out for that. And then also working on doing some kind of just oral history interviews with people from our area, just some of the legends. They're getting old, they're getting up there, and there's a lot of people that are, up in that older, not as, not like Shane. We're not really talking about Shane, but not like actual people that are, in their 70s and 80s that are truly, gems of history of Louisiana, especially our Louisiana fishery, that need to get have their story down, and their story needs to be listened to by thousands of people, because it's some incredible stuff. And I look at things like just in my family and my grandpa and mostly doing stuff with my uncle when I was a kid. And I look at things like that, and I kind of watch him slowly fade away and end up passing away this past spring. And I was like, you know what? We need to get these guys and get all these people that I still talk to, and some of these older guys that have these stories and they still tell me about how incredible they are today, and things that happened in the past that people nowadays wouldn't even believe. And I just think it's pretty cool, like something we need to get down, and I'm gonna work on that and get that out for y'all too. So a lot coming up. Again, sorry, it's been a while. I know it's been a lot of stuff going on. I've been back and forth in Baton Rouge a couple times a month dealing with policy stuff and redfish, and obviously it's spring, so a busy fishing time. Slowed down a little bit now for me, at least. We'll start picking back up come Jacks in July and August. If anybody's wondering about that, feel free to hit me up. And obviously that's what I do a lot around Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Bourne areas, the Jacks. We get some bull reds too, and slot reds, and just different things like that. I call them my whatever bites trips, because we may see a tarpon, we may catch a bull red, we may mess with Jacks, we may catch sheephead, we may throw out a 6-foot gar. It's a little bit of everything. So if you want to do something like that, hit me up, let me know. Got some days available for that. Dave does a lot of the same things too, and he also goes down and fishes Venice a bunch too. I'll do that a little bit, not as much as Dave and Shane. Shane obviously is in Venice a good bit. So if you want to get down there, do the bull red thing with Shane on the bay boat, I mean, I doubt he's got any days left, but feel free to hit me up or hit him up. All of our info's in there, and get that on the books. So hopefully I'll be talking to y'all sooner than later, and let me know what you think. Send me some comments, And as always, remember, just do one thing for this place every day. Throw one fish back, pick up one piece of trash, help somebody in the marsh. Do one thing every day to help this place, Use that hashtag one for Louisiana. I promise you eventually I'm going to do something with that and maybe get some, cool design and some shirts and hats and all. We'll make that a thing, but for now, just do it because it's the right thing to do. So, thank y'all and see you at the next one.